Hello again, everyone. Today we will talk about a major development on the XRP front that has been awaited for years. Because the lawsuit between the SEC and Ripple, which has been ongoing for a long time, has officially ended, and this news concerns not only XRP investors but actually the entire crypto market. As you know, this lawsuit started in 2010. The SEC had considered Ripple's XRP sales as unregistered securities sales, and since then there has been tremendous pressure on XRP. Many exchanges delisted XRP, investor confidence dropped, and the project was constantly in the news because of the lawsuit. But now things are changing. According to the news shared by Reuters, the SEC has officially ended the lawsuit, and the Ripple side has accepted a penalty of $125 million. The most important point is this: the court's previous decision has not changed. In other words, the view that individual sales of XRP on exchanges are not securities has been maintained. This detail is seen as incredible in the market, and in my opinion, this is exactly what excites the market, friends. Because for years, the pressure and uncertainty over whether XRP would be banned or what would happen with the lawsuit has largely disappeared. Now, investors are focusing on something else. What will XRP do from now on? Because with the end of the lawsuit process, institutional interest in XRP has started to rise again. Especially the ETF rumors, Ripple's growth in payment systems, and the increase in XRP ledger usage are creating a positive atmosphere in the market once again. In fact, some analysts interpret the end of this lawsuit as the beginning of a new era for XRP, because this was the biggest event that had been suppressing the price for years. Now that uncertainty has largely been removed. Of course, I should also mention this, friends. It wouldn't be accurate to say that Ripple has completely won, because on the institutional sales side, the court found the SEC to be in the right, and that's why the $125 million fine is still in effect. But since the market is more focused on XRP's status in the free market, the news was generally perceived as positive. On the price side, investors are especially watching the critical resistance zones, because after the news about the lawsuit, volatility on the XRP side increased significantly. If the overall market remains strong, we might see XRP trying to return to its former strong periods. Also, don't forget this, friends. XRP is not just a meme coin or a hype project. Ripple has been working for a long time to build a major infrastructure focused on banking and cross-border payment systems. That's why the conclusion of this lawsuit was very important for the company. In the upcoming period, especially ETF news, institutional partnerships, and usage data on the XRP ledger could be decisive for the price. Currently, XRP is trading at around $1.43, and honestly, friends, the market is right at a critical zone. Especially with the conclusion of the SEC lawsuit, there has started to be serious momentum on the XRP side again. However, the area where the price is currently located is technically quite important, because the $1.40 level is currently acting as a strong support in the short term. As long as XRP stays above this level, investors' positive expectations may continue. Especially if high volume buying continues, the market may attempt another upward move. On the upside, the area investors are watching most closely is around $1.50 to $1.55. Because this area has recently become a strong resistance zone, if XRP manages to break through this level with strong volume, a serious FOMO could start again in the market. Especially with the pressure from the SEC easing, we are seeing a shift in investor psychology. In the past, there was constant talk of lawsuit fears regarding XRP, but now the market is more focused on the possibility of an ETF, institutional inflows, and Ripple's growth. Of course, volatility may continue in the short term, friends, because in the past, XRP has also been a coin that made sharp moves in response to news. That's why, especially the movements on the Bitcoin side will be very important for the price of XRP. If the overall market remains strong, we could see XRP first testing the $1.50 resistance and then attempting to reach even higher levels. But in the event of a possible pullback, holding the $1.40 support appears to be quite critical. We can say that the market is currently at a decision point. The volume and news flow in the coming days could determine the direction of XRP, friends. That's all for today's analysis and news. Take good care of yourselves. What I've shared is definitely not investment advice. See you next time.